is Wink Tracks the Tropics, powered by the Weather Authority.
When the tropics are active, timing is everything. The Weather Authority is keeping you prepared.
The latest update did come in from the National Hurricane Center. Helene moving north-northeast. Winds have increased up to 90 miles per hour.
Keeping you informed.
It's now 170 miles northwest of us, and as we had mentioned, this is a major Cat 4 hurricane. This is going to have major landfall implications.
Southwest Florida has seen its fair share of storms in the past few years.
We are leaving immediately after this because it is not safe. You're starting to see some of these debris, sticks flying up and out, and it's one of the reasons why Sanibel is evacuated. It clearly is not safe out here.
But our slice of paradise has bounced back in ways we'd never expect.
It's tough.
We have each other, and that's a good thing.
I wouldn't have made it without Marianne. We're gonna make it, though. We're gonna make it.
Wink News has been there with you every step of the way, and that won't change.
Yes, we avoid the worst part of the storm, but the wind field's growing and the pressures are deepening. We're going to feel more of that influence on the back end with the surge.
From forecast cones to important safety reminders, the Weather Authority has you covered. You're watching Wink Tracks the Tropics.
Friday, everybody. Welcome to Wink Tracks the Tropics. I'm Wink's Weather Authority, Val Simpson. And what a difference a day makes. Now, yesterday we were saying how no development was expected for a few days, and now we have two areas that we're watching. The tropical wave that we've been watching for a week finally got tagged by the National Hurricane Center yesterday afternoon, and this morning a new area in the northern Atlantic that we're also keeping an eye on. We're going to be discussing all of this. What does this all mean to you here in Southwest Florida, or if you're watching from elsewhere? We're going to be touching on that. And then, of course, we have a lot of our segments. We have a hurricane tip of the day. I know that Oceana has been working on that. And then Nikki brings us Science in 60 Seconds. We also have a question for our Wink Weather Watcher segment today. So we're going to be touching all of that in today's episode. So let's go ahead and punch our panel. What's up, guys? How's everybody doing today?
Hello. Happy Friday.
Oh, yes. That sounds so good. And this is going to be a really good weekend weather-wise.
Yeah, it's going to be gorgeous. I recommend getting outside. We have so many events going on here in Southwest Florida. Oktoberfest, Music Festival, Music Walk in downtown Fort Myers. So just take advantage of the weather. Get out to these events. Enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oceana, any big plans this weekend?
Yeah, I'm really just going to do what Nikki said. Just enjoy everything we have going on here. I mean, our beaches specifically, I'm definitely going to hit the beach at least Saturday or Sunday. So.
Very nice, very nice. And even if there's no big plans, the fact that the weather is going to be amazing with those lower dew points, I mean, that just adds a little bit extra. It's even awesome to be able to run errands without that humidity killing you when you walk out of the car on your way to the store. Anyway, all right, guys, let's get to it. We have a question of the day here, as you can see in front of the screen. And it's really, I mean, just to get to know you a little bit better. If you didn't live in Florida, where would you live? Who wants to go first?
Nikki can go first.
I think that's a really hard question because I'm born and raised in the Sunshine State. I love it here so much. I did take a little bit of a reprieve from it for a few years, and I lived in Colorado. I loved it, but I just needed to get back to the beach. So I do love Florida, but I think it's so hard. If I had to choose somewhere else to live, I do love New York.
Yeah.
That would be, I guess, the only place that'd pull me away from here.
Yeah, big change, big change. What about you, Oceana? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Nikki. Like, I was born and raised here. I would never really want to be anywhere else. But if I had to move somewhere that didn't have a beach, I'd probably pick Tennessee. That has a special place in my heart. I went there like every summer as a kid.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful there in Nashville and in Knoxville specifically. So beautiful. And they have fall. So.
Yeah, and they have fall. There you go. There you go. Yes. And if you are watching us, tuned in today, answer the question. We're reading you on YouTube and on our Facebook page. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, this is an interactive platform. What this means is that we can read your comments, your questions, anything you want to let us know in real time on both of those platforms. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do like a little review of what has been going on because like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, a lot has changed in just 24 hours. So, but But you know what? Before I punch in the outlook, I do want to share this, very important. I think that this is something that we need to reiterate even more often than not. I want to show you this that's on screen right now. This was published by the National Hurricane Center, and it really goes to show that in social media, a lot of people were sharing this post that somebody that was very irresponsible decided to publish, and it's really all hype. This is basically a storm close to Florida. And this, let me remind everybody, this was even before the National Hurricane had tagged the tropical wave area that we're watching in the Atlantic. So anything, by the way, this is the GFS, which is the American model. Anything that the GFS, anything outside of 7 days, so 10, 9, 8, 10, and beyond, or even further out, 14 days out, is never going to happen. It's likely that it's never going to happen. So it's very important to make sure that you get your information, especially when it comes to hurricane season, from a reliable source. The Wink Weather Authority has you covered, but you can choose who you want to get your information from. Obviously, we're the best, but keep that in mind. Look at this post, completely creating hype, trying to scare folks. It got thousands, tons of shares, and completely unnecessary. So now, with that being said, I wanted to get that off my chest. We can go ahead and move on to the outlook for today. Just like I was telling you before, 2 areas that we are watching. Finally, the area that has a 30% chance, that's the tropical wave that we've been talking about all week, got tagged by the National Hurricane Center. This was yesterday afternoon. As you can see, a lot of disorganized showers and thunderstorms at this point as it continues to move west. And then we have another area that came up this morning that is in the northern Atlantic. It has a 10% chance of development. I'm not going to go into this one a lot because this will stay out to sea, most likely not harming anybody, probably a fish storm. But we are going to focus on the area that has a 30% chance, that tropical wave, because it is something that might bring, it's worth watching, especially for the Caribbean, all the islands there. Like I mentioned, it's a large area of showers and thunderstorms right now. It has a possibility of gradual development as it continues to move west at 15 to 20 miles per hour. Where you see the X, that's where it's located currently. Where you see that yellow blob is where it would have the potential of development. Now, regarding of development, it will bring heavy rain and gusty winds for areas in the Windward Islands, especially going into the end of this weekend. What's going to happen once it makes it into the Caribbean? Well, that's kind of up in the air right now. However, our job is to continue and study and view what's going on with the different models. So I am going to pull up some of these model guidance. I'm going to pull up the GFS, which is the American model, and we're going to talk about that. Something that we have been noticing is that they've been flip-flopping back and forth in terms of where they are generating or showing development, and we're going to see that. So basically, GFS showing the wave is going to go across exactly what the National Hurricane Center is also saying. And this is 7 days out. This is going to be next Friday. It's showing that it could possibly have some development. Look at it has a center of circulation. We're seeing lots of spin. We're seeing something developing there south of Puerto Rico at this point. So anything in this area, and I also want to mention, of course, Haiti, Dominican Republic, the Virgin Islands as well. All these sections should be watching the system closely, since this is the information that we have from this point, and this is what we could potentially be seeing. But and I say potentially because look at and notice the euro, completely different. They're not in agreement, and we do look for that all the time because that just increases the chances that could probably be achieved. Now the euro 7 days out does not have it as developed. It does show some spin. It's more of a broad area of low pressure at this point. This is, again, 7 days out. Location-wise, it's not right south of Puerto Rico either. So these are things that we have to keep in mind. Now, what's going to happen after 7 days? We can't talk really intensity, and we can't talk track either, just because it hasn't even developed yet. So it's almost like we are trying to forecast based on a ghost, on something that doesn't exist. Even better, I'm going to put them side by side so that you can kind of take a look, because I know that sometimes when you're seeing these model runs, it's easier to just see them this way. So now the American model has it developing, if it does, a little bit faster, a little bit sooner, and it's going to be developing further east. However, the European model is saying that is going to be a slower development and is going to be further west. Something we were talking about on yesterday's episode is that usually when it continues to be pushed a little bit longer in terms of development and they're not really quite sure when it's happening, that basically is because we're not really sure if it's even going to happen at that point. So we just need to continue watching. I think that for right now, something that we mentioned in yesterday's episode too was that the likelihood we are in complete front season. Fronts are heading south, pushing through. There is a strong front that is projected next week, forecasting that is going to be pushing through for us. That could be a shield for Florida. And but right now, I think that with the information that we hold in hand currently, it's very important that areas in the Caribbean definitely keep a very close eye on this. Let's go ahead and punch the panel in. Guys, thoughts on these models right now, what the American and the European are showing. Do you think that it's worth keeping an eye on?
Well, you know, we talked a little bit about this yesterday off camera, how I shy away from showing these models so early on because it's gonna burn you, because really we don't know where it's going just yet. We just have a wave that's out there. Now, it's a great idea to be focused on the fact that there's the potential for a system developing, but the models just have a really poor grasp of trying to depict where the system could go and the intensity of it, because there's really nothing there for it to pick up just yet. Now, we do know that we have the potential for seeing development in the Caribbean. So everybody in the Caribbean, I would keep an eye on the system. As for us here in Southwest Florida, we still have quite a bit of time to go to watch the potential system if it does end up developing. And once that happens, we will have a better idea on the intensity of it, because models will be able to handle it better, and the track of it. Now, we talked about this, I think, yesterday. If the system ends up being stronger, it will have a higher likelihood of turning out more so towards the Atlantic. And then if it's weaker, which is what the European model is currently depicting, it would just be heading more so towards Central America. So it is something for us to keep our eyes on over the coming days, but I think we still have plenty of time to watch this to see exactly where we can expect it to be heading.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Nikki in the saying that it's so risky to show, not risky, but we just kind of steer away from showing those models all the time just because it is so far out. I actually had this conversation with Zach earlier this morning about how, yeah, it's too far out. None of these are really agreeing either, which is just exactly what we are confused about, or models are confused about. So that's one thing when we show these models. It's just kind of giving you an idea of what the models are saying, and we are showing them to you only because they are a little closer to home as far as that development region possibility. I mean, in the Caribbean, we've told you all season long, this is the ones that we really look at. And I know we brought up yesterday that Caribbean graveyard. Josh has been talking about it a lot. It's kind of the hurricane graveyard. So that's in that Eastern Caribbean. That is usually stronger in terms of killing those storms in an El Nino year, which we aren't in right now. But still, like, this tropical wave still has to make it through the Eastern Caribbean. There's typically more shear in that area, and if it's a weaker storm by the time it nears those Leeward Islands, or still a tropical wave as it's expected to be, it's likely going to struggle a little bit before making its way into the Western Caribbean. So we have a lot to look at here. We have a lot to see. We'll know so much more even come Monday and Tuesday once this makes that way a little bit closer. But right now, like we've been saying all week long, it is so far out, not going to be something you need to be worrying about right in this current moment. It's just something, you know, it's something to keep an eye on. It is one of the first times we've had possible development in the Caribbean. So that's why we're kind of exhausting the subject.
Yeah. That's true. And and then, like we said, hurricane season is not over yet. We still have until November 30th. So it's always a good idea to just keep an eye on things for right now, at least checking in once a day, like we had mentioned yesterday. Guys, I do want to mention that we are getting some comments on Facebook right now coming in. This is from Michael Yancey. He says, hey, happy Friday, y'all. He is in Atlanta, Georgia. So shout out to Atlanta, Georgia. That's why I said maybe they're not watching from Southwest Florida. What's up? How's the weather in Atlanta, Georgia right now? Michael, let us know. Very good. We're also checking YouTube as well. Guys, in terms of the other area that's up in the Northern Atlantic, what do we know about that?
Well, it does have a very, very low end chance of seeing any development. And it is pretty interesting because it is going to be passing over the Gulf Stream. And that's when it does have a little bit of a window to see some tropical development. But then it's going to be moving right back out into those cooler waters of the North Atlantic. And when that happens, it's just going to really shut off any potential for tropical development. But it could become a subtropical system. But again, very low end chance of seeing that happening. So definitely not really going to be something to focus on too much, or definitely not a threat for us here.
Right, exactly. Definitely. It's just a reminder, right, that it's still possible to see development out there because of what we were just saying. Hurricane season is not over yet, even though we would like it to be.
44 days.
It's still live there. Guys, we're getting some comments on YouTube now. This is from Tim. He says, good morning, experts. Good morning to all in the chat as well. He actually, Oceana, he says that he's been to Nashville and loved it. So I guess
it's literally has such a special place in my heart. I went 2 times in 1 month in April for 2 different reasons, but like I just keep finding myself going back there. I have a trip planned for next summer. I love Nashville and Knoxville. Beautiful up there. I have family there. I could talk about it forever.
How nice. This April, did you go 2025?
Yeah, I just went in April for 2 weekends, and then I've actually gone, I went every single year in college with all my friends, which was a really good time too.
Yeah, Tim is actually writing right now in real time, and I'm trying to read his message. So it says, no, not tropical related, but how about you show some love to the fishermen out there with a fishing report?
I actually just was looking at the boating forecast.
I love it. We were just talking about the boating forecast downstairs. It says boaters, dog walking, even mowing the grass. We have feelings too. Oh my God, you're hilarious. Tim, we love you, Tim. Thank you so much for that. We love recommendations, so we will show that. Especially like on, days like, we like to talk about the tropics when it's not something that we need to worry about, so we can talk about local weather as well, but we should. We do know that this afternoon, though, we're going to be seeing an increase in some gusty winds. We are going to have, at times, it's going to get actually pretty windy out there. So if you're going to be taking out your boat later this afternoon, you may want to keep that in mind. There is a backdoor front that is going to be pushing down, and that's going to be increasing our winds. Right, guys?
Yeah, the wave heights, I think, are predicted 2 to 4 feet in the Gulf this afternoon. Yeah. So you won't find me out there, especially with the seasickness. I'm good. However, the bays, moderate chop there. I don't know. I would love to be on the boat. Honestly, I lied. Like any day of the week, any hour, I want to be out on the boat. But just keep in mind, it's going to be a little wavier, especially today, and even a little bit tomorrow as well. I think wave heights are 2 to 3 feet. I was looking into this. Someone asked on my Facebook earlier, so I'm glad he brought that up.
Even on a very nice, very calm day, I have to take the motion sickness pill. Because I suffer from motion sickness. Okay, guys, we're going to do things a little bit differently because talking about the tropics, there is a question that came in fact, that I thought that it would be great to show here on today's episode, and it's regarding, I'm going to push that up. This is going to be our Wink Weather Watcher highlight today because it is a question that got brought up, and because we are in October and November, I'm going to punch up the question from our viewer because maybe a lot of people out there have the same question as well, so that way we can talk about it. So this question is from Mike Iserman. He says, can you show spaghetti models of hurricane activity at the end of October and November? And we are going to touch on that because obviously, one of the reasons we tend to see activity in October that is closer to home. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think that's November, so I'm going to punch here. Let's see if we can see October 1st. It is important to understand that, we still see activity, and in the past we have seen activity. So these are all the hurricanes that came close to home or went right through our area since 1950. Anything that is in green would be a tropical storm. This is not the case. These are actually 5 hurricanes that we've seen. The most recent one would be Milton last year. It did make landfall as a Category 3, but it was a Category 5 at some point. Lost intensity. You could see that very lighter pink at the end of the screen, and then it got a little bit darker right before it made landfall. Matthew also was a hurricane that we saw in the state of Florida, not so much on our coast, But here are some hurricane activities since 1950. So yeah, October, we're not out of the woods yet. So that's why it's important to continue to keep an eye on it. And now I am going to punch November so that we can go ahead and take a look at it. November shows more, there we go, shows more tropical storm activity. Here, as you can see, a lot of greens in these spaghetti models. And then as far as hurricanes, just a little bit less in comparison to October. So here you have one of the most recent ones would be Nicole in 2022 that came through, as you can see, the East Coast as a Category 1 hurricane. But it seems like November tends to be a month where we've seen in the past a lot of tropical storms, which, you know, again, tropical storms can create lots of damage, strong winds, lots of rain as well. I mean, it could be picking up, when you're talking about those types of winds in that category, it could still be picking up plants from the outside and flying them like a missile through a window. So it's very dangerous. I don't know why I always say that, but it's just to create a picture to illustrate how dangerous it could also be. And let's go ahead and bring the panel back up. Guys, so that's kind of what we've seen in the past for October and November. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to that, but to me, it seems like they're still very active months.
Yeah, one thing I do want to point out, looking at those October hurricanes, each and every one of those was a major hurricane.
Good point.
We still have those abnormally warm waters in place through the month of October. You still have conditions that are ripe for development. And then, as we've been talking about quite a lot since we've entered the month of October, this is when we start to see those Gulf and Caribbean storms ramp up. So they are a little bit closer to home. That development is possible closer to home. So just, I mean, look at these storms in October. Michael, just one of a handful of Category 5 storms to ever make landfall in the United States. It devastated parts of the Panhandle, Mexico Beach. It took them years to get back together, building those houses once again. Milton, we all know it caused devastation on the west coast of the state. We had surge that was devastating across our area. So even in October, you can't let your guard down. November, like you were saying, there's still quite a bit of activity out there. Luckily, we start to see the intensity around that time frame knock down a little bit, but we still have to be vigilant. And remember, you know, hurricane season, the official dates, you know, those are human-made. June 1st to November 30th, you could still have storms develop outside of that time frame if the conditions are favorable for it.
Yeah, no, that's true too. I mean, it wouldn't, I think there was early December, we were talking about it in one of the recent episodes, there was development years back in early December as well. So that good point there. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and move on to now our hurricane tip of the day. Oceana, what do you have for us today on Weather 3?
So today I'm going to be talking about preparing your home. And speaking of how things outside can become like missiles when there are super strong winds from either a tropical storm or a hurricane, number one thing you're going to want to do, and this is something you can do right now, trim any overhanging branches. If you've got any loose branches in your trees, these could so easily be picked up by the strong winds during any storm, really, and especially as we get into January and February, when that is when we start to see a slight chance for some severe weather. You're definitely not going to want to have any loose branches in or around your home. So going along with that, secure your outdoor furniture and objects. This goes for when we are expecting severe weather or a hurricane or tropical storm. Definitely going to want to bring it inside if you can, if you have room. But if you don't, tie it down. You know, we had a trampoline during Hurricane Irma, and you should have seen the straps that my dad had put on that thing to keep it on the ground. He had cables, everything, and it worked. But trampolines are something you've seen, definitely have seen videos online of those absolutely flying into the middle of the air, causing a lot of damage to not just you, but your neighbors. So do you and your neighbors a favor and secure any outdoor furniture and objects that could become flying debris. And then last thing, if you're preparing outside of your home, clean your gutters. This is always something you should do. Same with cleaning your drains. This is good for your neighbors as well. And I was actually looking into gutter guards. These really help them from getting clogged, which, you know, you don't want them getting clogged, especially during a storm when there's a lot of leaves flying around, because then that's really going to clog them up. Water's going to sit in that gutter. You know what happens next. So definitely going to want to look into installing gutter guards. I saw they have a million different kinds of them. Pretty interesting. I know I don't have them, but pretty interesting. I honestly never really knew about those.
Yeah, no, I think great point. I think I was trying to make a segue when I was talking about, and then I didn't have enough coffee in me to kind of try to.
I felt you going there when you brought up the plants flying around, and then you went the other direction.
But it is really a good point, because sometimes we don't think about that, but it could be very dangerous if we leave things laying around. So and
not
also
just to us, but
trimming
to your neighbor.
trees is always very important as well. Very important as well.
Yeah.
Nikki, I know that you have something coming up. And speaking of, we were just talking about a few minutes ago how amazing this weekend is going to be for outdoor activities, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that yours is related to that. So let me go ahead and punch that in Weather 2 for Andrew. Here we go.
Yeah, so today I'm going to be breaking down exactly what we mean when we're talking about the dew points. This is a time of year where we do emphasize it quite a bit, because we start to get this drier air filtering in, and that dew point makes all the difference. So the dew point is the temperature that the air has to sink to in order for you to see saturation. So basically this is a number we talk about a lot when it comes to fog, which is a great example of it. So if the low temperature is going to be 65 degrees and that dew point is at 64, then we have a pretty good shot of seeing fog develop, because we're close to saturation. But the dew point, the higher you go, the stickier it feels, because it's indicating that much moisture in the atmosphere. And so typically when the dew points are in the mid 60s and higher, we say it's a little sticky, and then the higher you go, it's humid. Now below the mid 60s, it starts to feel pleasant, and then once you get into the 50s and even the 40s, then it's really dry out there. And so when we talk about dew points impacting how it actually feels outside, so when we have this dry air in place, those temperatures don't feel as hot out there. A perfect example is during the summer, we will have those dew points in the upper 70s, and it makes our temperatures feel a lot warmer, and that's what we get when we talk about our feels like temperatures. So your body cools off by sweating, and that sweat evaporating into the atmosphere. But when there's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, which is indicated by dew points sitting in the upper 60s and 70s, that process happens a lot slower. And so that's why it feels warmer for you. That's why your body feels warmer, and that's where we get those feels like temperatures. So dew points, just a very interesting topic on how we love it right now. We love to talk about it now, because we're talking about those drier dew points.
Yeah.
And as you can see here, the lower the dew point, the better here it's going to look.
I love that.
It's a good illustration. Yeah, as soon as this graphic pulled up, I had to giggle a little bit. But it's a great way to remember, right, where each dew point and what it could cause to your hair. Very good. Guys, we're having some more messages coming in on Facebook. We have Jim Fliz. He says, happy Friday. Jim, thank you for tuning in. Where are you watching us from? Let us know. Okay, before we leave, any takeaways from today's episode? What do you guys think?
I would say don't worry about anything now, or just enjoy your weekend. We'll watch this for you, and we'll know a lot more next week about anything in the tropics, because as the days go on, the tropical wave will move a little closer to the Caribbean, and models will get a much better handle on this, especially once the National Hurricane Center marks this as an invest, because then we'll start getting spaghetti models every 6 hours. So for now, just enjoy your weekend. We'll watch this for you over the weekend, and we'll know a lot more next week.
Nikki, anything you want to add?
No, I think she summed it up well. Yeah. I mean, enjoy the weekend. It's going to be beautiful out there, and we'll keep an eye on the tropics.
Yeah,
for you.
and one last thought, again, just to kind of recap everything. Make sure you get your information from a reliable source. I know that this week you're probably going to be inundated on social media with a lot of things going on. So anything that you see close to Florida, just ignore it. Keep scrolling. Keep on keeping on. Enjoy your weekend, like the girl said. And hopefully, as we get closer to the event, we'll have better information to share with you. Right now, nothing for you to worry about. All right. Thank you so much, panel, for today. And thank you for tuning in to today's Wing Tracks the Tropics. We will see you on Monday at 11 o'clock. Bye.